I'm offering you everything you want, all at once.
What is everything I want? Since you know so much about me.
To put a real stick in the eye of the Empire.
No. I think it's all useless.
All right, today I wanted to talk about Andor, continuation of following Andor, because I've been absolutely loving the TV show that they've done. It's really, really, really well done. And so I wanted to kind of go through it and keep going through it and talking about this. So in this episode, in this sequence, this arc, as it were, what I wanted to talk about and highlight is the idea of how do you make the audience believe something, or what is the most effective way? Probably effective is going to be the best way to describe this, because let's say, for example, that the audience believes A, for example, like this. So the audience believes A, they are in 100% full agreement from there. And then, all right, you've convinced them of A. This could be anything. This could be this guy is good or bad or evil, or this idea is right or just, or we should go here, we should go here, we should go find the Holy Grail, anything like this. This is kind of an idea at this point. The other idea that you can do is you can go, all right, well, what would happen if we took an audience from A to where they believed A and then convinced them, actually, it's B. B is really where it's at from here. What would that do? What would that look like? Well, okay, so what you'd have is you'd have an audience that would fully know all the arguments of A, but would now believe B. You would have led them through all of this reasons why you want to believe this and go to this one. You know, it's the John Stuart Mill's quote, well, he who doesn't know his enemy's argument knows not his own, or whatever it is from there. What's the idea is that it's really important that you know the argument, the other argument, the opposite why not, before you fully believe why from here. And keep this in mind, because what we're going to be exploring is this idea of this is an aspect of stories that it comes in really handy and is really cool, because in a story you can create essentially a perfect argument. And because you control everything, you control absolutely everything. So we can control the perfect argument. That means we control everyone who believes A, and we control everyone who believes C and D, and then so forth from there. And what you can do is you can present the arguments in such a way to convince the audience of A, and then slowly change their mind to B. So now, let's ground this real quick. So in this instance, we're going to say A equals not fighting the Empire. All right? Not fighting the Empire. So this is where Cassian is. This is kind of where we're at from here. Because if you remember, Cassian has gone with the rebels, infiltration squad. They came in on the planet of Aldani and stole, greater than, 80 million credits. And it was a big hit to the Empire. It was kind of a big moral victory, because this is the first time that anyone's, standing up against the Empire and all this. And so you have this big moment where, hey, they have enough money now that they can go and fund more rebellion. This is an aspect of where they can continue to expand and go from here. And so they have this war chest, and they can go from here. And so this is kind of the natural inclination, because Luthen had made previously a very impassioned speech. Don't you want to stick it to them? Don't you want to fight them, fight the Empire, and all this stuff. And Andor is essentially like, nah. Or more important, it's actually more like no. It's like, no, because we understand he's got his own fight. He's got his own aspect that he's going. He's trying to hunt down his sister. He's trying to figure out where she's at. He's trying to go. He doesn't believe, he doesn't buy it. We kind of see this when he was talking with, I believe the guy's name was Nemec, who is the idealist. And Andor's like, nope, it's a job. I'm here for the cash, and then I'm out. And it very clearly becomes that way, because Skeen tries to kill, basically opens up with, hey, we should murder everyone and betray them. And, Andrew's like, nah, I'm here for the job. Again, I'm not believing C. I'm going from here. So this is A. This is what we've kind of convinced. And this is the interesting thing about stories, is because the audience will generally follow, almost always, a well-crafted character. This can really go across morality lines or anything like that, because you can kind of take a character like Tyrion, who is a drunk aristocrat, and we'll believe and follow whatever he says. So whatever Tyrion says, we're behind. Whatever this, whatever that, everything is kind of going along with it. We are on point with whatever Tyrion says, because we're won over by his wit, his charm, his logic. Everything seems to line up and make sense to the reason why we should listen to him. And also, we just like him. So whenever Tyrion believes something, if Tyrion believes A, we're going to believe it. We don't really understand what's happening. When he goes, hey, we're going to have to fight and defend King's Landing, and what we need to do is we're going to use black fire. I think that's it. Black fire, and we need to do a charge through the breach and fight off Stannis Baratheon and his knights. We're going to go, yep, this is probably the right thing to do. And he's going to go, Joffrey's an evil little, you know what he is. He is, let's say, kind of like this. And imagine that a little bit brown from there. So this is Joffrey. If he describes Joffrey as this, we're going to believe him. Not only because we can see it, but also, well, mainly because we can also see it from there. But you can also, there's this idea of we're linked to Tyrion from here. And so now what we have is we have an interesting point where Andor leaves and he goes home. He goes home to his mother, Marva, who he's not really his mom, but she's his mom by adoption and care from here. And he goes, let's go. Let's leave. This is not our fight. This is from here. And she goes, nope, I'm too old. I'm staying here. She is a rebel. She's a rebel through and through. She's going to stay here. Her husband was murdered here. She's not going to leave. She's going to continue to make the fight. And Andor makes a really good point, because it's like, we are going to die here. There is no hope. The Empire is going to destroy us. And all the while he's making this argument, we get to see the Empire doing exactly that. We get to see from, was it Deidre Mira, I believe is her name. And she is absolutely ruthlessly efficient. And she is hunting. They are constantly hunting. They are everywhere. They have limitless resources to get whatever they want. They have as many troops. They outnumber them, outgun them. This is the Empire, the capital E Empire. That has come to establish and utterly dominate the galaxy. And there's a reason why they were able to dominate the galaxy. This is not some, podunk empire that doesn't know how to be a tyrant. They are professional tyrants. They absolutely know what they are doing. And this is something that I feel like the world building, the subtle world building in this, that doesn't always highlight all the, this is the reason why the Empire does X, Y, Z. It just shows it to you, which is really nice. It's a really good moment from here. And so Cassian leaves. He leaves. He goes away, because this is not his fight from here. And what we have here is, while he's leaving, he goes, and the other reason why he's leaving is we know he's trying to find his sister. Marva says, give up finding your sister. And he's like, nah. From there, and you can kind of see that this is the dynamic. So this is what A is, and we understand A. We kind of would have maybe most people may choose, like, well, B, which we'll call B now, is fighting the Empire, standing up against them, or acting against them, being a rebel, essentially from here. Fighting the Empire is B. We have this understanding of what's going on. And so while you may not 100% agree with Cassian's motivations, you really do understand it. And you kind of agree and understand that, okay, this is not his fight. We understand and we respect his decision. We understand that not everyone needs to fight. It's good that some people fight, but not everyone, and not Cassian from there. And so this is kind of what it's building for. And so this is kind of the idea that's like, now it's kind of convinced us of A. The other thing that has done a really good job with this is Luthen has this assistant lady We'll call her the AL. And she goes to meet Vel, who is back. She was the leader of the Aldani robbery from there. She comes back, and the assistant lady tells Vel, you need to, resolve this situation. No loose ends. And what they're effectively doing is she's telling her to kill Cassian. And this is something that also doesn't really endear us towards the rebel cause, because we understand it. I understand why, because if Luthen gets caught, they're basically, the rebellion at this point seemingly is completely done for. It's completely over. And so what you want to do and you want to go for is you have to, the audience fully understands why they want to kill Cassian, but Cassian's our man. He's our boy. We're not going along with it. So we're not 100% agreeing with the rebellion in this case. And so this is another thing that's convincing us, hey, A may not be true, or A may be where it's at. B may not be where we want to be at the moment. Because maybe we don't want to fight the Empire. You guys fight the Empire. We are going to go with Cassian. And Cassian goes off, far off, to another planet. Basically he's a tourist from here. He wants to be, just kind of hang out, have fun, all this stuff. He's just living the tourist life. He's loaded. He's got a bunch of money. He can just be free. And it's at this point where the other thing that the show does really good is it keeps jumping around other characters. So we get to see more of Cyril Karn. And the one thing I really do appreciate about this show is that I don't like Cyril. I've not been super shy about this. The other thing is the show has not done a very good job, has not done anything to make me like him. So all the scenes with him are very short. I really don't want to see him and his mother bicker and bully each other more than probably about 30 seconds to 2 minutes. This is where it's at. And the show doesn't do that to me. I honestly don't even necessarily care so much about Mon Mothma, or whatever it is, the senator lady. I'm kind of with her. I kind of, hope she does well, from here, but I'm not fully sold to her like I am Cassian or Luthen or in some of these other characters from here, Bix or anything like that from here. And so we're showing this as like, okay, well, I don't really want to see it. So they're keeping all of these really, really short, which is really quite nice. I really appreciated that. And it's something that I think they've done very well, because it means the show doesn't get boring, which is the most dangerous thing that could happen, especially for the show that you're trying to create thrills and all this other stuff like this. You don't want it to be boring, because if it does, that is going to be the death of it completely, the complete death of it. And so this is what we've got. So, and at this point, we're jumping around the galaxy. We're seeing Deidre kind of go about. She outmaneuvers her opponent and gets control of Ferrix, the planet where Marva is living. Bix is trying to help out, and we're really, she's a good person. We can really see, her and Cassian. Cassian comes home. When he comes home to try and convince Marva to leave, Bix is, helping look out for his mom. She's a good person. She didn't blame him for Tim's death or anything like that, or causing anything. She's a good friend. And this is something where, they've done, she's just a good person, a good character. We like her. Same with the mining guy, who's, his buddy who's helping him out, who's like, hey, I was with you last night. We were drinking. And he's like, yes. And they kind of get all of this together and continually build their stories, because they've got each other's back. And so she's got Cassian's back. And Marva starts taking a turn for the worse because she's old. She's not doing so hot. And so Bix tries to alert Luthen and ask him, where's Cassian? Because his mother's dying. From here, the Empire catches up on this, because as we can see, as she outmaneuvers and takes control of Ferrix, Mira's continually building up. And her character is one that's interesting, because we're fairly ambivalent. This is another character. We're almost kind of on the same page. What is it? The senator lady, I think Mon Mothma, and Deidre, Mira, are kind of, for me at this point, they were kind of in the same place. And what I mean by that is, I was rooting for the senator lady more, but I didn't really have my heart and soul behind one or the other. And just to give you guys an idea for it, so let me tell you a story. All right. there was a mudslide in India that killed 70 people. And it's like, okay, there's a story. This really happened. And it's like, what do you feel? If you're thinking to yourself, what do I feel in this moment? It's like, wow, that sucks. And there's really nothing more than that. And it's not because anyone's heartless or anything like that. Like, it's just the story. I haven't sold you on the story. I haven't created, there's no antagonist. There's no protagonist. There's no characters. There's no anything like that. It's just simply, it happened. And it's like, okay. And this is what kind of, it sort of happens with like the Aldanis. They did introduce them, and we have that one character, the guy who's betrayed them, the lieutenant who's working with them. And we kind of get an understanding of, liking the Aldani people, but they're not us. They're not our characters. Our characters are Cassian. It's Luthen. It's some of these characters, Bix, the mining guy. It's Marva. These are the characters who we care about. So if they died in a mudslide, it would be a tragedy. It would be something so much more than simply it just happened. And again, it's not saying this isn't a tragedy. It isn't horrific. It isn't horrible. It's just, it happened. What do you want me to do? If I cared about every single one of these, I would die, essentially, because this is happening all the time. And so what you have to do, this is kind of where we're at as far as this goes. Empire's doing terrible stuff, it's doing terrible things, but you haven't initially sold the audience on this, and especially with this whole deal with her trying to kill, the rebellion who stands against the Empire, the people we're supposed to hate, is kind of trying to murder our boy, our main character here, and we don't like that. So this is kind of an idea where we are firmly settled into A. We're believing A. And so on the other far side of the galaxy, Cassian is on, his tourist planet, and he gets arrested essentially for being there because there's a bunch of rebels, and or people who are, rebels or rebel sympathizers who are probably just there. They might have said something rude to the stormtroopers who then arrested them. And Cassian gets caught up and arrested as well. And he's getting ready to get sentenced to, I think it's like 6 months, which is pretty crazy, pretty astronomical. But then the new regulations, because of this new oversight, because of the work that, Mira and everyone at the Empire is responding to all this, it changes to 6 years. And instantaneously, we understand everything's starting to change. Like, oh my goodness, what is happening? And we're getting positioned, and what's happening is then Cassian is getting pushed in farther and farther and farther into this hole of like, oh my goodness, how are we going to get out? And this is blatant injustice, as we know. Basically, Cassian was just sitting there, and he gets sent away for 6 years. And this is crazy. And so what you have is Cassian kind of walks through with this just wide-eyed, like, what the heck is going on? Because he's trying to, he's constantly glancing around it, but he can't find a way to escape because this whole prison is just completely a tribute, as it is, to the ruthless efficiency of the Empire. Because what it is it's a hard labor camp, and there's they can't, if they walk on the floor, they get this kind of, I don't know, mind-numbing zap thing that causes extreme pain. And so the prisoners all wear no shoes, and the guards all have boots, and everything is controlled, and they're sitting down into this big room area where there's like a elevator that comes down from up here, and the exits up here. And this is where they work, and they have different stations over here, here, and they're working for 12-hour shifts, and presumably every single day. Of course, they don't get breaks because there's nothing else for them to do, and they're here working with these weird, like, octo or 6-claw metal things or something like that, and they're really big, and you got to stack them up on these like carts, and then you tow them away. And there's another prisoner there who's played by Andy Serkis, who's great. I think his name is Kino Loy, and he's the foreman, essentially. Or the floor manager prisoner. He's another prisoner. And he starts barking out orders because he's been taken over command of the prisoners from here. And they have, so many output that they have to meet in order to hit their quota. The top people get extra bonuses, and the lowest people get punished. They get zapped simply from here. And so you have this whole dynamic, and Cassian is kind of constantly looking around trying to figure out what's going on, how can I get out of this, how can I get out of this point from here, and it's just completely stuck. It's this feeling of helplessness. He can't do anything from here. And again, in between this, we are constantly jumping around the galaxy. We have different scenes with Bix. She sent off the message to Luthen. Luthen is flying off to meet another guy to try and talk him into joining. He gets shut down. The senator lady is around doing her thing, and Mira is tightening the net because she has caught on to the fact that a message was sent to Bix, and she's headed to Barracks from here. And, she gets information from Cyril Karn, and they kind of integrate him. His life starts to get a little bit better of a turnaround. And again, it's for Karn, we're just kind of developing him for a future payoff, because we don't like him. We just don't really care about him from here. It's just not that big of a deal. But the investment is very low in his character. There's not a lot of screen time that he's getting, even though he continually jumps in and around from here. And so Mira is trying to follow this fellow that they're calling Axis, who we know is Luthen, because he is the key organizer and funder of all these different rebel plots, stealing this equipment, stealing that equipment, and of course the bank robbery on Aldhani. He kind of is behind all of this from here. And so they're hunting for him, and they're trying to figure out, and this is kind of what puts Andor on their Cassian Andor on their radar, because they know he knows who Axis is, and this is the one they're hiding. And this is what Vel and Cinti from the Aldhani, they're after Andor for the same reason, because he knows who Luthen is, and they can't let this secret escape from here. And at this point, we're still, our A is weakening, but our belief in A, you could say, is weakening, but all it simply does, Cassian is not against the idea of fighting against the Empire. He's just against it for him. He wants to live in peace. He wants to live. He wants to enjoy life. He wants to drink, future space mimosas on the beach at, 11 in the morning. All this stuff from here. And we get it. We understand it from here. And we're believing it. And so what you have is this kind of day in, day out starts jumping forward. And what you have happen here is then he's stuck here for months. It's time. They have a time skip where they're just like 30 days later. And he's continually adapting. And all this is doing, it's quite incredible how they're doing it, is they're just building tension. Because the audience doesn't know what will happen. We don't know what's going to happen next, because we don't know what Cassian's planning. We don't even know if he's planning anything. He may not be planning anything from here. We don't know what Luthen's up to. We don't know what Mira's up to. We don't know anything. All we're doing is just this impending waiting for where something is going to happen from here. We're just waiting. And then the Empire begins tightening the noose. Marva, I think, gets in trouble again with the police. Mira arrives on the planet Ferrix and they find out that it was from Bix's shop that the message was sent to Axis, to Luthen from here. And so they arrest her co-worker. I don't remember his name. They arrest him and torture him. And now we're getting a little bit closer. As you know, I talked about, the mudslide story, where it's a tragedy, but it didn't happen to anyone close to us. And now we're starting to have this happen a little bit closer. Because again, people died and everything like that, but the Empire doesn't fill you with this unjust rage until it happens to your people. This is generally just how it works, for better or worse. This generally is how people act and people react from here. And so this is kind of the next step in this. Is torture. And then Bix is brought in. They arrest Bix because they're like, hey, you're the one who sent this from here. And they kind of go from here, and they're asking her. They're asking questions. They want to know where Andor is. They want to know who Axis is. What does he look like? What is his voice like? How can they identify him? And this is all going on while Cassian is stuck here in this prison camp, all while everything else is jumping. The senator lady is over here doing her thing. She's trying to get money. Vel and Cinti are hunting Andor. Luthen's jumping around the galaxy trying to get extra help for this new job, this new hit, or something that he's talking about is not working. He's having trouble getting extra people, quality people, to be able to act on this. And now we've come to where Mira has captured Bix. And it's an absolutely terrifying moment because at this point, Mira's been a little bit of, she's for the Empire, but she's never been quite an antagonist of sort in the sense that she's never directly gone against a protagonist. Never directly gone against us. She hasn't acted against us. She's acted against, other imperials, which we don't really care about from here. But we've seen how efficient she is, how devoted she is. All of this from here is just coming into fruition. And now we see her coming up against Bix, who is, she's innocent. She's just a regular person. She was looking after Marva, trying to go from here. She's one of our people from here. And, Mira is carefully calculating the scene because it's really terrifying. Because, again, the tension has just been building this whole time because we don't know what's going to happen next. Because we don't know what Cassian's going to do. We don't know what Mira's going to do. We don't know what any of these characters are going on. But we know that it's building tension. It's like tightening this coil in the spring. So at some point, it's just going to explode from here. And Mira plans it so that, in the chair, in this little office that they've taken over for the hotel, is the coworker. He's sitting here, and she plans that Bix is going to see him, and he is completely limp. He has withstood something horrific. And this is where Bix comes in, and, Mira orders her gone, and then they put Bix inside in the very same chair, and they put her down there, and there's this other fellow there who, you don't really know what's going on, because, again, you don't know how they're going to be tortured. You don't know if it's going to be irons or, fingernails or anything like that, or, just cutting people up, anything like this, eyeballs. There's a scene from Utopia, with an eyeballs and a spoon in torture, and I'm sure you can understand, fill in the blank, and we're just terrified, and it's waiting, because now it's happened to one of us, one of our characters, someone that we care about from here. And they put Bix in the chair, and they strap her in, and then Mira leaves. She's talking to her, and they're like, we need to know these things. We need to know what Andor is. We need to know what Axis. We need to know what they look like. And then Bix is like, would you even believe me even if I told you? And Mira's like, no. So you understand what's going on. This is just horrific because what they're going to do is they're just going to torture her for good measure. We're pretty sure you're not going to tell us unless we, cause you a whole bunch of pain. So we're just going to go ahead and cause you some hope. We're not even going to bother with the first question part. We're not even going to give you the option to try and avoid this. We're just going to torture you no matter what. It's really, it's pretty crazy sick because it's going to work. It's like mind-numbing, destroying. This is crazy. And it's going to work. It's going to work. This is evil of a different level, something that we're not really looking forward to. And now, remember, as we're getting closer and closer, what does it matter? What is it going to take us to get to B? What is it going to take Cassian? Because for the audience to go along with it, Cassian has to go along with it. What is it going to take Cassian to go from A to B? Keep that in mind. And so as this is going on, and then they introduce Mira leaves, and it's this doctor, I think Gorst is his name, and he has this, headphone-like visor thing that he's going to put on her head and make her listen to it. And he's describing this, and it's a very, very slow scene. All until this, we've been jumping all around the galaxy to all these different points and everything like that. And this is kind of when we begin to see, all this jumping around. So when you slow down and focus on one scene, there's the tension, everything is building. And he's explaining, he's like, yeah, there are these creatures, and when they die, it produces this tortuous sound that will cause just immense pain like you've never imagined, where seconds feel like hours of pain, sort of deal. And she is just absolutely terrified. And this is another thing that they do really good. In the last video, I talked about, the vague concept of imagination, where you're imagining something as sound bad. And so long as you don't ever define it, so long as you can make the audience convinced that it's really, really bad, they will imagine something way worse than you can ever come up with, because it's never actually concrete. And this is what they do. We don't actually ever hear the sound. It's just complete and utter silence. And what we watch is we watch Bix completely unravel, completely fall apart. It is just absolutely horrifically devastating from here. And this is really where you begin to see, because this is where I was like, okay, Cassie needs to go over and, mess up these guys. This Dr. Gorse fellow seems all nice. Well, he's not really, it doesn't seem nice, but it's all smiles, and it's really, really off-putting. Because we don't know, again, we don't know what to expect before we actually see this. And then the torture begins, and it's really, really horrific. And this is kind of where we're moving towards. And then it jumps over to here. And actually, right before we get to that, so you can really begin to see that, okay, now we're really solidifying idea B. We're really making the audience, we're convincing the audience that actually B is the way to go. And what you can do is you can then, this is the idea, you take the greatest opponent and turn it into your greatest ally. So, we were in idea A about why you need to deal with peace. I want to live my own life. I want to just do my own thing, because we know it's only a matter of time before the Empire comes and captures you, ruins you, tortures you, murders your family. We're really basically making it so the Empire becomes a source of evil. This is the scene in episode, I think, 4, where the Death Star completely obliterates that one planet. They shoot that, and that's done to convince you that actually the evil, this is a evil empire. They need to die. This is not something that can live. It's not like you like this and I like this. It's this empire needs to go. And you can see this is where this is building, because what happens is we also know that Cassian is stuck here. And lo and behold, Cassian begins, the tensions in the prison gets worse and worse because men are dying. Something happened on, the second floor. And we begin to see this, and we know what Cassian is going to think once he gets out and sees what they've done to Bix. This is really activating the audience and enraging them and thinking that, what? Standing up and fighting is the only way forward. And then if you can get the audience to believe that, you've convinced them of B, and you've taken them from here to here. And now the audience will be your greatest ally, and they will believe in your story, and they will believe in everything to come from there. So, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this one. I'm going to keep watching it and keep doing videos on it, because so far I'm absolutely loving the show. They've just done such a good job with it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this one, and I will see you in the next.